Hello, and welcome back to Baby Steps to the Moon. I'm Jameis Buck, and today we're digging into the Apollo 7 mission. I need to congratulate myself first, though. This ascent you're watching, this was all done hands-off, and not using MechJeb either. I'm actually using the KOS mod, which lets you write your own programs to control your ships, and using a script I wrote myself to guide this rocket into orbit, so I'm feeling particularly astronautical today. Yay me! Anyway, Apollo 7. It was the first manned mission of the Apollo program. That distinction was supposed to have gone to Apollo 1, but when the Apollo 1 crew died in a fire in their command pod during training, the manned missions were all grounded for nearly a year and a half. So Apollo 7 was basically what Apollo 1 was supposed to have been, an orbital test of the command module, its ability to function as a habitat, and its maneuverability. Apollo 7 was crewed by Walter Schirra, Don Isley, and Walter Cunningham, who spent 11 days in orbit together in what was, at the time, the roomiest living quarters ever put into space. And while the mission was eventually considered a resounding success, the crew, for various reasons, was very resistant to instructions from mission control. Some places I've read have even called it a mutiny in space, but I think that's overstating things a little bit. At any rate, NASA never let Schirra, Isley, or Cunningham fly another mission. Hopefully, Raven, Barfel, and low-Kerbin are not so difficult to work with. Let's get this cannon to orbit and see what it can do. Now, while Apollo 7 spent a couple orbits attached to that S4B second stage, I don't need to do that, so I'm just going to take a little bit of time here and transfer the monopropellant from that booster stage and just bring that back over to the command module. And once that's done, it's just a matter of poof, separating them. And at this point, Apollo 7 did some maneuverability testing just to see what it would be like to come back in and dock with the lunar module. So while there's no lunar module here, we're just going to pull in as close as we can get to that spent stage as a test to see if this command module is maneuverable enough for what we need it to do. Now the real Apollo 7, they only came within about a couple dozen feet of the of their spent stage there, but I'm gonna bring it in a bit closer just because I can, because it's Kerbal Space Program, right? I mean, come on. We got to push the limits here. So what do we got there? About 1.5 meters. We can do better than that. Let's see. Let's bring it in easy. Straighten it out a little bit. Got a little crooked there. And yeah, look at that. We're about 0.5 meter out. That's not too bad. And nothing bumped. I think it's plenty maneuverable. Now at this point, after they'd spent a few hours, of course we did it much quicker. They spent a few hours doing all that. We're going to pull out now, put some distance between us, just as Apollo 7 did, and after some time, they spent a couple days getting far enough away. I'm going to time warp this and do it faster. The idea is they put some distance between them and then rendezvoused with it again to simulate, the records call it a what did they call it? Like a space rescue kind of scenario, where maybe the lunar module wasn't able to complete the rendezvous, and so the command module had to step in and finish it out for them. So yeah, we're not quite far enough away yet. Let's see what we got. Yeah, about 150 kilometers. That's probably good. I think Apollo 7 got to about 180 kilometers from their target when they were doing it. So I'd like to say that I wrote a KOS script to actually do the rendezvous as well, but I didn't. So my skills aren't quite there yet. So I'm relying on MechJeb here to set up a rendezvous. We'll just get us pointing in the right direction and warp us around until we get to where we need to make our burn. Alright, we're just about there. Our crew seem cheerful. maybe a little stunned. Hard to tell. So I'm a little happy. But there it is. That brief little burn was enough to get us where we needed to be. Our orbits were not that dissimilar. It was really just a matter of waiting for the right moment to make that home and transfer. So, and now we warp it up again. Wait until we pull in close and match velocities. Alright, so now we're closing in on it here, about 9 kilometers. Relative velocity is, about 38 meters per second. And we're pulling in, so we're going to warp it up here a little bit. It's coming up from below. We'll get our burn ready here. There it is. Yep, you can see it there in the distance. That's a beautiful shot. I love that. Okay, coming in fast. Relative 34 meters per second, which is plenty fast. Here, we'll do our burn here and polish it off here. Almost got it. And, yep, there we go. Zero out that relative velocity. Now it's just a matter of closing the last 450 meters. We're not going to try and pull in as close as we did before. This, again, is not to test how maneuverable the command module it is, but really just to see how feasible a space rescue kind of scenario would be. They really weren't that far apart, but if they can rendezvous from 180 kilometers, they can rendezvous from further away. And here we are. We're pulling in close. Let's get this done. So the lighting for this whole sequence was pretty terrible. I flipped it around from this view, and it seems a little better. A little more visually interesting, too. Watch the command module approach the spent stage. We're getting close, almost there. We'll probably just bring it within 10 meters or so. Like I said, we don't have much to prove. And after this is really the last big thing I need to test. Obviously, the real Apollo 7 tested many more things, mostly dealing with the command module itself and what life would be like aboard that. So we're not going to worry too much about it. Once we get this done, we'll just maybe make a victory lap or something and then re-enter. But yeah, see, we totally did that. And since this is Kerbal Space Program, of course we need to get a Kerbal out and EVA up to that spent stage. Apollo 7 did no such thing. I don't think they did any sort of EVA like that. But these are Kerbals. Come on, we gotta let them get out and play a little bit. So looks like that went fine. No problems. Get them back in there. And at this point, I think we can call the mission a success. That went well. Let's pull away there from that spent stage for safety's sake, and let's just get ready for re-entry. Now, as it turns out, our re-entry is going to be occurring just as the sun comes over the horizon there. I totally didn't plan that. In fact, as beautiful as it looks, the lighting is lousy, so I apologize for that. Anyway, we'll get us lined up here. We are just a couple kilometers above the atmosphere, so we'll get us lined up and then we'll separate our service module from the command module. And I think that's looking pretty good there. Of course, totally black there. Let's get you a little contrast. And poof, there we have it. And now the rest is just falling. I will spare you the next half hour of excitement as you watch something fall through the atmosphere from great height. And instead, we'll just jump to the seconds before landing here. The parachute all came out. I just barely missed a splashdown, but this will have to do. And thump, there we go. Beautiful. And I almost tip it over. Come on, there we go. Okay, a little more graceful than the last one. But there we go, the first manned mission of the Apollo program. A success. Recover that, and we'll call it good. So stay tuned for Apollo 8, where we actually go to the moon for the first time. Until then, this is James Buck with Baby Steps to the Moon, signing out.